When I was 18, I walked into what was supposed to be my birthday dinner, and it hit me right away. I was just another guest at a table that used to be mine. The room still smelled like me, in a way, cedarwood candles and roasted garlic, just like always. There were 12 chairs around that table. 11 were taken. One sat empty, but it wasn't waiting for me. That spot now belonged to Ava, my younger cousin. Newer to the family dynamics and, according to my mom, better at playing the part. I stood there for a second, hovering near the doorway, kind of hoping anyone would notice. Maybe say happy birthday. But no one even looked up. Not until Ava gave me a little confused wave and said, "Oh, you're here." My mom barely glanced in my direction. No warmth. No surprise. Just cold calculation. "Didn't think you'd show," she said, like it was nothing. "This really wasn't for you." Somehow my voice didn't shake when I asked, "Why is she sitting in my seat?" My brother Mason didn't even look up from his plate. He just said, "You're not on the board anymore, Elise." "Haven't been for a while." Dad updated the will. "You should have checked your email." I just blinked. "What will?" Nobody answered. Ava reached for the bread basket, careful not to meet my eyes. My mom didn't explain anything either. She just topped off her wine and said, "Let's not make a scene tonight." I walked out without saying another word, still wearing the gold bracelet Dad gave me when I was 13, the one that said legacy first. I didn't cry. That night, I opened my laptop and tried logging into the family trust portal. I typed in my name. The system told me, "Invalid user." Right then, it hit me, they weren't just pretending I wasn't there. They'd actually wiped me out. 9 years later, I wasn't planning to go back. Not for Thanksgiving. Not for my mom's birthday. Not for anything. I was working a double shift at a banquet hall in Boston, folding napkins in the back when my phone buzzed. Subject line: Hawthorne Foundation Gala, Final Confirmations. I almost trashed it without reading. But something, muscle memory maybe, made me tap it open. The email came from Danielle at hawthornerust.org. I hadn't seen that domain in years, not since I was still in. Attached was one of those glossy event flyers. Full color, polished to perfection. Rows of smiling headshots. A sea of last names that used to mean something to me. And there, second row center, was Ava. She was wearing that deep navy dress my mom always wore to these things. The caption underneath, Ava Hawthorne, Future Director of Youth Legacy Programs. Her quote read, "Our family believes in shaping leaders through unity and tradition." Unity. Tradition. I almost laughed out loud. Of course, my name wasn't anywhere on the list. Not as a guest. Not as a legacy. But something odd caught my eye in the email footer right where they listed the names of past contacts. There it was. Elise R. Archived mailing list. Someone must have checked the wrong box, slipped up, left a digital door open they didn't mean to. I hit print on the email, folded the gala flyer like it was Exhibit A in a case I didn't even know I was reopening, and slipped it into my bag. That night, I pulled out a file I hadn't looked at in years. Inside? Old screenshots. Contracts. Trust clauses. Names. One folder was labeled in all lowercase, "What they forgot." And tucked inside that folder was something better than just proof. It was power. An unsigned clause from my grandmother's trust. My name was still on it. Not scratched out. Not replaced. They might have cut me from the party guest list, but they forgot to delete me from the foundation of it all. I sat down on the edge of my bed, still in my catering uniform, still holding that printed flyer like I expected it to apologize. It didn't. And neither did they. For years, I told myself I was done looking back. They made their choice, and I made mine. Get out, stay out, keep quiet. Independence. Survival. Silence. But that stupid flyer? It wouldn't let go. Ava's perfect little smile practically burned through the paper like it knew what it was doing. So I reached under my mattress and pulled out the old manila folder I kept hidden there. My roommate once asked if it was old tax stuff. Not exactly. It was packed with digital printouts, scribbled margins, screenshots of trust documents I grabbed before they killed my login access. There was even a photo of me with my grandmother, the last woman in this family who said my name without clenching her jaw. And then I found the letter. Addressed to Miss Elise Rowan Hawthorne, from the Hawthorne Legal Office. Dated 8 years back. Still sealed. My hands were shaking when I tore it open. Inside was a draft amendment to the trust. 2 versions. One where my name was blacked out, and one where it wasn't. Both marked not finalized. I should have shut the folder. Should have gone to bed. But my phone buzzed. No caller ID. Text message, they're going to name Ava heir at the gala. Your name's still buried in the paperwork. Figured you deserve a shot to speak before they bury that too. Initials at the bottom, JB. I just stared at it. J.B. I hadn't heard those letters in nearly a decade. Jonas Barrett. The family's old accountant. The one they fired the same year I disappeared from the family tree. And just like that, the silence around me shattered. They thought they buried me in paperwork. Forgot that some ghosts? They keep receipts. I showed up in Vermont right as the sun came up. The kind of sunrise that used to mean something to us, family ski trips, holiday cards, the whole legacy image. But now it was just pale light cutting through a dirty windshield. Just me and an Airbnb host who'd left the key under a rock like we weren't even pretending anymore. I hadn't told a soul I was coming. I didn't need to tell anyone I was coming back. The land remembered me, even if the people tried to forget. Instead of heading straight to the fancy hotel where the gala was happening, I took a detour. Drove out to a quiet little cottage on the edge of Rowan Lake. My grandmother's place. Technically, it belonged to the foundation now, but nobody had touched it since the day they buried her. They couldn't sell it. She made sure of that. Left one very specific clause in her will. This house shall remain untouched unless opened by someone who knows where the photo frame is cracked. And I did. It was in the hallway, second frame from the left, hanging just above the old warped mirror. A photo of the two of us. I was 8, gripping her hand, wearing her pearls and trying not to blink for the camera. The frame had a split in the back. Hidden behind it, taped down like a secret, was a folded piece of paper. I opened it. If you're reading this, it means they tried to erase you. But you're still a Hawthorne. And they don't get to decide who holds this name. Tucked inside that note was a small brass key and something else, an untouched original copy of the Hawthorne Trust. The real one. The one before all the edits and updates and email passwords. My name was still there. Bold. Legal. Unchanged. Elise Rowan Hawthorne. Direct line. Second beneficiary. They thought I'd forgotten who I was. Thought I wouldn't come back to the only person who never made me earn my place. They never expected her to leave a breadcrumb trail. And they definitely didn't expect me to remember how it all began. I didn't want just any dress. I wanted the dress. The one my mom wore when she cut the ribbon at the opening of the very first Hawthorne Foundation building. I remembered it from a yellowed newspaper clipping that used to hang in my room, before they took it down and replaced it with glossy photos of Ava. Midnight navy. Floral length. Clean neckline. It wasn't flashy, but every inch of it said legacy. I found it at a boutique consignment shop in town. Tucked in the back like a secret. The owner's eyes widened the second I pulled it from the rack. Oh wow, this is one of the originals. Came from the Hawthorne family, I think. I just smiled. Yeah, I know. She said it used to belong to Ava's grandmother. I didn't bother correcting her. Technically, she was right. But tonight? That dress belonged to me. I checked into a tiny inn just 2 blocks from the gala venue. Skipped the valet. Skipped the red carpet. I wasn't walking in the front door. Instead, I made a call. A makeup artist I'd once served wine to at a fundraiser in Boston owed me a favor. She came through. Made me look like something out of an old photograph, familiar, not flashy. Like a memory you shoved in the back of a drawer but couldn't quite bring yourself to throw away. Before I left, I slipped two things into my clutch, a printed copy of the trust clause with my name still on it, and the folded note from my grandmother. Then I stood in front of the mirror, not to admire how I looked, but to say goodbye to the version of myself who thought staying quiet meant staying safe. I wasn't showing up tonight for an apology. I was showing up for the mic. I stepped into the Hawthorne Foundation Gala at exactly 7:41 p.m., not through the grand entrance with all the flashbulbs and velvet ropes, but through the staff door. A waiter held it open. He didn't ask who I was. Just gave me this look like he knew I was someone important, but couldn't quite remember why. That was exactly what I wanted. The ballroom looked like something out of a catalog. Crystal chandeliers, gold trim along every edge of crisp white tablecloths. Champagne glasses clinking. People complimenting each other's good taste and family names like they were passing around heirlooms. I moved through the crowd like smoke, no name tag, no place card, no one announcing me. Still, heads turned. A few guests squinted like they were trying to place me. Maybe they'd seen me in some old alumni bulletin or one of the holiday newsletters before I was edited out. At the welcome table, I grabbed a gala program and flipped it open. 3 pages of honorees. Ava had an entire column to herself. Rising leader. Mentor. Inheritor of vision. I wasn't mentioned. No surprise there. Then I spotted the legacy wall, an entire hallway lined with framed photos spanning 3 generations of Hawthorns. Founders, donors, family portraits. I walked it slowly, one frame at a time. My mom in her 20s. My siblings. Ava in her prep school uniform, looking exactly like the future they wanted her to be. And then I noticed something. One of the frames was crooked. The little brass plaque beneath it read, Hawthorne Children, 2009 Family Day. But the photo inside didn't look right. Too much white space on the left side. I leaned in. Someone had cropped me out. You could still see the faint outline of the original image through the backing glass. And tucked loosely behind the frame? The real photo. The unedited one. I was there. Right in the center. Someone had taken a red pen and drawn an X across my face. I didn't cry. I just snapped a photo, pulled the USB drive from my clutch, and slipped it into the AV laptop backstage behind the curtain. If they wanted to pretend I didn't exist, fine. I'd write myself back into the story. They say every gala has a moment. Mine started at 8:19 p.m. Ava had just walked on stage, wrapped in white satin and wrapped even tighter in everyone's expectations. Applause rippled across the ballroom like polite thunder. The MC leaned into the mic and said, "Tonight, we celebrate a new generation. A woman of grace, vision, and the full weight of the Hawthorne name." The lights dimmed for the presentation video. Only, that wasn't the reel they thought they were getting. Instead of Ava's carefully edited highlight reel, the screens blinked once, then went black. And then my voice filled the room, steady, clear, unmistakable. Some of you remember me. Some of you were told to forget I ever existed. Heads turned. A few people gasped. Most just stared. My name is Nina Elise Hawthorne. I was born into this family. I grew up in this house. I sat at that table. I wore this bracelet. I earned that scholarship. And then I was erased. Behind me, the old family photo filled the screen. The original. Me right in the middle, smiling like I belonged there. Because I did. Then came the version they replaced it with. Cropped. Sanitized. Redacted. You could hear the whispers ripple through the crowd like static. Next came the scanned trust document. My name's still there, legal, untouched, valid. Binding. I stepped out onto the edge of the stage. The lights caught the navy blue of my dress. Not just any dress. My mother's. The one she wore the night the foundation opened its first building. You can't erase a person and still keep their legacy. I said into the mic, you can't silence a daughter and call it unity. You can't fake tradition over a broken truth and expect it to stand. A single clap broke the silence. Then another. Ava stood like a statue, her cue cards shaking in her hand. My mother sat stiff, knuckles tight around her wine glass. And me? I didn't wait for a cue. I said what I came here to say. I'm not here to steal anything. I'm just here to remind you, it was mine the whole time. That's when the silence really hit. Not the awkward kind. The kind that hums with weight. No one moved. No one clinked a glass. No fake coughs or nervous chuckles to cut the tension. And then, my mother stood. She moved slowly, like she still believed she could control what happened next. Like she hadn't just lost the script. She walked up beside Ava, one hand resting on the podium, the other lightly touching her pearls. Her voice came out smooth but tight. "Nina, sweetheart," she said, all honey and edges. "This isn't the place." I looked her in the eye. "Then where's it been?" "For the last 9 years." Her lips pressed into that familiar, careful smile. "Let's talk after the event. There's no need to make a scene." I didn't blink. "You already made one," I told her. "You just didn't expect me to walk back into it." The screen behind us still showed the document. My name. The clause. Stamped. Legit. And then it happened. The sound of a chair scraping against the marble floor. Someone stood up in the back. Julian Beckett. JB. The accountant they got rid of when he started asking questions they didn't want to answer. He held up a thick folder in one hand like a flag. "The Foundation's books don't lie," he said. "But people do. And I've kept copies." My mom paled. Ava's face twisted. "This is slander," she snapped. "She's just here for attention." I didn't even blink. "I'm here for the truth," I said. The attention just followed it in. Someone near the front stood up. Then another in the back, near the doors. And finally, the clapping started again. But this time, it wasn't for Ava. It wasn't for appearances or some polished version of family honor. It was for something real. For justice. And let me tell you, justice doesn't come wrapped in hugs and polite handshakes. It shows up with receipts, with names, with consequences. Not an apology. A gavel. The morning after the gala, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. For calls before I even had a chance to pour my coffee. All unknown numbers. Straight to voicemail. Repeat. By lunchtime, I had 11 missed calls. 9 of them were from my mother. The first voicemail? It tried to sound calm. "Nina, it's your mother. Let's not let last night get out of hand." By the second, she shifted gears. "You don't understand the pressure we were under. Your father, he thought this was best." Message number 6 cracked open a little. "You're not the only one who's been hurt, you know." I didn't call her back. Instead, my sister Sabrina sent a message. No intro. No emotion. Just a PDF attachment. Cease and desist. Apparently, speaking my name out loud now counted as defamation. Reclaiming what was already mine? Grounds for legal action. And Ava? She didn't bother with courtrooms. She took her spin straight to Instagram. A polished photo of her in a sharp white pantsuit, captioned, "Legacy isn't stolen. It's earned. We rise. We don't beg. Hashtag Hawthorne Strong." Thousands of likes. Pinned at the top was a comment. "Funny how some people only show up when there's money on the line." That one came from our cousin Eli. Of course it did. But it didn't matter. Not really. Because 24 hours later, someone, no name, no trace, dumped a folder on a public drive. The file name? Hawthorne Gala. Internal. Inside, email chains, expense reports, grant approvals, receipts, proof, and Ava's signature on multiple invoices for creative development consultants that didn't exist. Somebody lit that fire. Wasn't me. Probably Julian Beckett. Maybe someone else with a conscience. Either way, I didn't have to do a thing. I just stood still. Let the truth find air. Let it burn. Somewhere in the background, my mother's 12th voicemail played. "Nina, please. They're talking about an investigation. You can stop this." I listened. Then I hit delete. When I was 17, I used to scribble my full name in notebooks, just to remind myself it was still mine. Nina Elise Hawthorne. Not that girl. Not the one they whispered about but never named. Not a red line through an old photo. Just me. And 9 years later? I trademarked it. The Whitmore Initiative. Not Whitmore. Not in partnership with. Just Liana. A nonprofit for young women erased by their own families, cut off, cast out, conveniently forgotten. The site went live exactly 1 week after the gala. No press release. No interviews. Just a homepage, a mission, and a name that refused to disappear. I didn't take the board seat they offered. Didn't acknowledge the internal realignment statement the Whitmore Institute put out. Didn't reply to the family lawyer's proposal of a revised trust. I wasn't looking for a seat at their table. I was building my own. All I wanted was for the silence that followed my name to finally feel like power, not punishment. I took the key from my grandmother's cottage, hung it on a chain around my neck. Bought the place back, not as a Whitmore heir, but as a private citizen with a long memory and the deed to prove it. Then I posted a single photo on the Whitmore Initiative homepage. A gold bracelet. The one my father gave me when I was 13. Engraved, "Legacy First." Underneath it, just the words. Some legacies are built with silence. Others are reclaimed with fire. No hashtags. No comments. No faces. Because names can be taken. But identity? That's earned. And I didn't earn mine by staying quiet. I earned it by surviving erasure and spelling my name louder than they ever thought I would. A month later, the Whitmore Institute quietly unveiled a new logo. No apology. No mention of me. Just branding. Realignment. Their favorite word. Sienna stepped down. Not disgraced, just refocusing. My mother gave an exclusive interview to the Hudson Valley Chronicle. She wore pale blue, sat in her formal living room, and said with a gentle tremble, "Family is complicated, but we're healing. We've always been a family that heals." I didn't correct her. Didn't release a statement. Didn't need to. I was already gone. Not hidden. Not erased. Just beyond reach. They could keep the Whitmore name. I had no interest in sharing a label with people who wore it like armor and sharpened knives behind it. My name, Liana, meant something again. And it meant more without them. I gave my grandmother's pearls to a girl named Kiera. She was one of the first Whitmore Initiative scholars. She called me Ms. Whitmore. I smiled and shook my head. Just Liana. That's what they never understood. I didn't want the throne. Didn't need the spotlight. Didn't care about applause in marble rooms or ghost-written legacy speeches. I just wanted my voice back. And now that I had it, I didn't need to shout. I could whisper, and the walls would still remember. The gala faded. The nameplate changed. The press moved on. But silence stayed. Not the kind they used to punish me. The kind I chose. Some nights I still wake up thinking I'm 17. That if I knock on the kitchen door, someone might answer. They don't. And that's okay. Because I no longer need the door to be open. I built another one. Last week, I gave a talk at a local university. Not a TED stage, just a quiet auditorium with folding chairs and girls who took notes like their futures depended on it. One of them raised her hand. Nervous. Bright. "How did you forgive them?" I paused. Then I told the truth. I didn't. I just stopped asking them to explain who I am. That was always the problem. I was too loud to be obedient. Too quiet to be heard. Too inconvenient to keep around. So they told a story where I didn't exist. And I let them. For a while. But silence has an expiration date. Mine came dressed in navy blue. Under a chandelier. Holding a document they thought they buried. They called me bitter. Then they called me bold. But they never called me by my name. Not until I made them read it aloud. So here it is. My name is Liana Rose Whitmore. And this? This was the final word they never thought I'd speak. They erased me. So I returned with the final word.